Welcome to the Deep Dive. We sift through sources so you get the essential info fast. Basically, a shortcut to being well-informed. Today, we're looking into something a bit spooky. Ouija boards. Specifically, what can actually go wrong when you use one?
Right. It's a topic with a lot of stories around it.
Definitely. We've got two main sources for this. One's an article from Stranger Dimensions. It's called 5 Signs Your Ouija Board Session Has Gone Horribly Wrong. Gives a kind of overview of potential red flags.
Okay, more observational.
Yeah. And then we have a personal story from True Ghost Tales called Ouija Board Gone Wrong. So a real first-hand account of things going south.
Ah, so we get both angles, the general warnings and then a specific lived experience.
Exactly. Our mission today is to pull these together, understand the risks, the negative stuff people report with these boards. We'll draw on, the expert-like points in that very personal narrative.
Sounds good. Where do we start? With the signs.
Let's do it. So sign number 1 from Stranger Dimensions is erratic planchette movement.
Okay, and what does that actually mean? Just wobbly?
Well, it's more than that, apparently. The article says it's about random movements across the letters or numbers, not really answering.
Right, and they connect this to something called Ouija-stitions, like folklore around the boards?
Yeah, beliefs within the community. The Museum of Talking Boards is mentioned, suggesting this kind of movement could mean a spirit is trying to break out.
Break out. Okay, that's unsettling terminology right there.
Tell me about it. And it gets more specific, too. Moving to the 4 corners of the board?
Yeah, the article flags that as a really bad sign. It suggests contact with something they call undoubtedly evil.
Yikes. What about other patterns?
Moving in a figure 8 or just going in circles, that's supposedly the entity signaling it's gained control of the board or thinks it has.
But the article does mention, doesn't it, that maybe it's not always sinister? Like maybe some entities are just messing around.
Yeah, it does hedge a bit there.
Yeah.
Suggests some might just be trying to trick people, using random patterns or symbols to seem more powerful than they are.
So it's tricky to interpret then. It feels like you could easily get spooked by any weird movement.
That's the core issue, really. There's no, official rule book. So people are often in a heightened state anyway, and weird movements can easily be read in the scariest possible way.
Makes sense. Okay, sign number 2 from Stranger Dimensions is, less ambiguous. The planchette flying or falling off the board.
Right. This is definitely more dramatic, not just odd movements, but, physical action.
Yeah, the article mentions one case where the planchette apparently flew right across the room and smashed against a wall.
Wow, okay.
And this ties into that idea of the Ouija board being a doorway, doesn't it?
Yeah.
The article quotes someone saying that, like you just don't know what you're talking to.
Exactly. It reinforces that uncertainty, the potential danger. If the tool itself acts violently, what does that say about the connection it's making?
And there's another Ouija mentioned, too, about the planchette just falling off the board, not necessarily flying.
Yes. The belief there, according to the article, is that if it falls off, an entity might escape. Or maybe even a portal opens up.
A portal. Okay, that's escalating things. It's like the danger isn't just during the session anymore.
Precisely. It's just the possibility of, consequences bleeding into the real world. A breach.
Okay, let's move to the 3rd sign. This one's really strange. Missing time.
Ah, the Reddit story. Yeah, this one's bizarre.
So this user, Lenore's Den, reported losing 10 hours. 10 hours during a session. And neither she nor her friend remembered anything.
And the spirit they were supposedly talking to claimed to be a protector, which makes it even weirder. But yeah, a complete blank for both of them for that whole period. A very eerie.
It really is. Does the article offer any explanation for how that could even happen?
It offers a theory, a speculative one, the idea that maybe entities need energy from the participants to communicate or manifest, and this energy drain could somehow result in lost time.
Huh. Energy drain?
Yeah, and it even throws out the possibility of possession being linked to this kind of thing, which is, a pretty big leap.
Definitely a big leap. That idea of entities feeding on energy, though, that crops up a lot in paranormal stuff, doesn't it?
It's a common trope, yes. And linking it to something seemingly concrete, like missing memory, it gives the idea a bit more weight for believers, even if there's no scientific basis offered.
Right. Okay, sign 4 is terror strikes beyond the board. So this is about bad stuff happening after you put the Ouija away.
Yeah, this is where Stranger Dimensions gets into some really disturbing after effects people have reported.
Like what?
It starts with things like the board showing up in weird places when you put it away somewhere else, or people developing an unhealthy obsession with it.
Okay, creepy, but maybe explainable.
Maybe. But then it gets more intense, seeing things like a black mass or a silhouette of a man.
Okay, definitely creepier.
And then it escalates to physical sensations. People reporting their hair being pulled, feeling pricked or scratched, even choked. One account mentioned being held down while hearing whispers. Maybe in Latin?
Whoa! Held down. And Latin whispers. That's straight out of a horror movie.
It really is. And the article links these kinds of terrifying experiences to the idea that maybe a hell portal got open because they didn't close the session properly.
A hell portal. That's quite the claim. It puts a lot of pressure on ending the session correctly, doesn't it?
It certainly frames it as high stakes. This idea of residual activity or even haunting following Ouija use is pretty common in these kinds of stories. The portal idea just gives it a specific dramatic label.
Gotcha. And the fifth and final sign from Stranger Dimensions, it's about a specific name, right?
Yeah, the appearance of Zozo.
Zozo. I feel like I've heard that name before in this context.
It's become quite infamous in Ouija circles, supposedly a very malevolent entity. The article basically says if the planchette spells out Z-O-Z-O, or similar variations like Z-A-Z-A, even M-A-M-A sometimes.
M-A-M-A, really?
Yeah, apparently that can sometimes be Zozo too. Anyway, if those letters come up, the advice is clear. Shut it down. End the session immediately because of all the negative stuff associated with that name.
Okay, so Zozo is like the ultimate warning sign from that source.
Seems that way, yes.
All right, let's switch gears now to the personal story. The true Ghost Tales account, Ouija Board Gone Wrong. This should give us a feel for how these signs might play out in a reported real situation.
Right. And this one starts off pretty typically, doesn't it? A bunch of friends, maybe a bit bored, looking for a thrill.
Yeah, exactly. The mood is described as light at first, nervous laughter, you know the scene. Yeah. Probably some skepticism mixed in. And then the planchette moves to, yes, that first little sign something might be happening.
Even if they think it's just them moving it subconsciously at first.
Right. But then things get more serious pretty quick. They apparently get a specific warning about someone in the group.
Ah, that changes things. Makes it personal. Harder to just laugh off as a game when it feels like it knows something about you.
Exactly. That's when the skepticism probably starts to crack. And then the classic signs start appearing. Just like Stranger Dimensions, describe some potential effects.
What kind of things?
Flickering candles, the room getting cold, seeing a shadow on the wall, and the planchette spelling out E-E-V-E. Someone's watch even stopped.
Wow, okay. It's like a checklist of spooky phenomena building up.
It is. And each little thing, maybe explainable on its own, starts to add up. The flickering candle could be a draft. The cold spot, just a cold spot. But together.
Right. Together it starts to feel like maybe something else is going on, something beyond their control. The mood shifts from curious to a bit worried.
And the story says things keep happening even after they stopped using the board for a bit. Echoing footsteps, and the planchette then violently spelling, "Get out, now."
See, that directly echoes the Stranger Dimensions point about terror beyond the board. The experience isn't contained just to when their hands are on the planchette.
Yeah, the fun is definitely over at that point. It shows that slide from curiosity into actual fear pretty vividly.
And the story mentions someone asked about a deceased friend and got name back. That personal connection must have really ramped things up.
Oh, for sure. Getting a specific, meaningful answer like that, it makes it feel incredibly real, much harder to dismiss as just random chance or imagination. That emotional hook is powerful.
Definitely. And then the atmosphere itself changes. Cold breezes, candles flickering again.
Yeah, even someone commenting like, is there a draft?
Yeah.
Trying to rationalize it. But then the planchette itself felt different, like it was humming with energy. Lights flicker. Strange low hum from the hall, taps on the walls.
Okay, the sensory stuff is getting intense now, more than just visual or temperature changes.
And then a key moment. The planchette moves forcefully, spells danger, and one of the friends, Sarah, pulls her hand back like she's lost control.
That feeling of an external force moving it. But someone wanted to keep going.
Yeah, doesn't. Apparently. Despite the danger warning, he insisted. That's kind of telling, isn't it? Pushing past the clear warnings.
It happens. Curiosity, bravado, maybe disbelief. Then the candles get blown out.
Blown out. And a feeling of being watched. And then the clincher. The closet door opening and closing by itself.
Okay, that's not subtle anymore. That's a physical manifestation. Much harder to explain away than a flicker or a cold spot.
No kidding. That seems like the point of no return in the story. And then came the name.
Not Zozo this time.
No, this time the planchette spelled out Z-A-R-A-K.
Zarak. Okay.
And the moment it finished, the whole atmosphere apparently changed. Thick, cold air, shadows seeming to get darker, more menacing.
That immediate shift sounds terrifying, like flipping a switch.
And then the messages got really direct. ISEEYOU.
Oh, chilling.
Followed by YOUCANTESCAPE.
Okay, yeah, that's pure horror movie territory now, just overtly threatening.
Along with flickering lights again, an eerie whisper they couldn't make out, and then the command, LOOKBEHINDYOU.
Nope, that's when you run. That plays on such a basic fear, did they?
They didn't look. They slammed the board closed, said goodbye, the whole ritual. But they still felt like they weren't alone afterwards.
That feeling lingered. And did things happen afterwards, to them individually?
Oh, yeah. That's where it really matches the terror beyond the board idea. Each person started having experiences. Objects moving on their own, lights flickering in their homes, that constant feeling of being watched.
Like it followed them.
It seems so. Sarah saw, "I am here," written in the steam on her bathroom mirror.
Okay, that's incredibly specific and personal.
Justin felt cold fingers on his neck, saw a shadowy figure lurking. Jessica started researching hauntings, trying to figure it out, and felt like she was being choked one night.
Choked. That's physical assault territory.
And Amber felt like something was trying to control her thoughts, heard a dark voice whispering, "It sounds like whatever this Zarak was, it attached to all of them."
That's terrifying. Each experiencing something different, almost tailored to them. So what did they do? They couldn't just live like that.
No, they were desperate. They ended up going to a medium, Madame Evangeline.
Right, seeking professional help in a sense. How did that go?
She did a cleansing ritual, but apparently while she was doing it, they heard this creepy laughter echoing around the room.
Laughter during a cleansing, that doesn't sound good. Like resistance.
Yeah, pretty unsettling. But the medium told them the board itself was the link, the conduit. Her advice, destroy it.
Destroy the board. That's common advice in these situations, isn't it? Break the connection.
Seems so. So they did. They took it outside and burned it. And as it burned, they heard angry whispers coming from the flames.
Angry whispers. Wow. Did it work? Did burning it help?
Apparently, yes. The story says that oppressive feeling they'd all been carrying around finally lifted after they burned the board.
Thank goodness. So a resolution, kind of?
Well, the intense haunting stopped, but the story makes it clear there were lasting effects. Scars, really.
How so? What happened to them long term?
It sounds like it messed them up pretty badly. Sarah had trouble trusting reality afterwards, always felt watched. Amber became withdrawn, anxious all the time.
Understandable after something like that.
Justin apparently got obsessed with the occult, maybe trying to understand or control it, but became really paranoid. And Jessica ended up in therapy, trying to process it all and help her friends heal too.
So even though the main phenomena stopped, the psychological impact was huge and lasting.
Yeah, the story says they still meet up sometimes, years later, but that feeling of being watched, it never completely goes away for them. It served as a permanent warning, it says. Some doors shouldn't be opened.
That's a heavy ending. It really drives home the potential for deep, lasting trauma, even separate from whether you believe the entity was real or not. The experience itself was profoundly damaging.
Definitely. So, okay, let's pull back and look at both sources together now. We've got the Stranger Dimensions article giving us these 5 key warning signs: erratic movement, flying planchette, missing time, lingering terror, and Zozo.
Right, a kind of checklist of potential dangers drawn from various accounts.
And then we have the True Ghost Tales story, which basically illustrates almost all of those points playing out in one terrifying sequence. From the initial weirdness to the escalating fear, the specific entity, the haunting afterwards, and the lasting psychological damage.
Yeah, the personal narrative really brings those more general warnings to life. It shows how a session could potentially spiral downwards step by step.
So the takeaway from this deep dive seems pretty consistent across both sources, doesn't it? Using a Ouija board can be unpredictable, potentially connect you with something negative, and might have consequences that stick around long after you put the board away.
Exactly. There are recurring themes. The unknown nature of the contact, the possibility of malevolent encounters, effects lingering beyond the session, and this emphasis on needing to recognize warning signs and close sessions properly, whatever that entails.
And it's important, like you said earlier, to remember we're exploring what these sources report. We're not saying this is definitively what happens, but rather laying out the documented experiences and warnings associated with Ouija boards.
Absolutely. We're looking at the phenomena as described in these accounts.
So thinking about all this, it leaves you wondering, doesn't it? What is going on with Ouija boards? Why do people have such drastically different experiences, from nothing happening to something fun to, well, this kind of terror?
That's the big question.
Is it all in our heads? Psychology, suggestion, the ideomotor effect moving the planchette subconsciously? Or are there other forces, other things we don't understand, truly at play?
Or maybe it's a mix, a complex interaction between our own minds, our expectations, and something else.
Yeah, maybe the truth is messy, somewhere in between. Mm. It's definitely something to chew on. Maybe something you, listening, will think about or even look into further, though perhaps without reaching for a board yourself after hearing all this.
Food for thought, for sure.
Well, that's our deep dive for today. Thanks for joining us.